Hello, Bashar.
And
Greetings.
to you, good day.
I am so honored and happy to have some time with you.
It is our passion and our pleasure to interact with you as well.
Thank you. So I have a few questions and one request. So I'll start
Yes.
with first. I want to say a statement that when you gave the teachings of the eye of the storm, it's everything was very clear and understood, but it wasn't so real. And I must state that this time, right now, it becomes so real with the awakening.
Yes. We told you that 2020 was going to be chaotic and nuts.
It's a wonderful nuts.
Well, it can be if used that way. Yes, that's the opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I am proud. I have to say as a statement, I'm proud of every person who's in the street right now.
Yes.
Creating a voice for us. It's a voice.
Yes. So participate in your own way as best you can.
Yes, thank you. So, taking to the permission slip of the passing through the eye of the needle.
Yes.
One of the items that you said to focus on was focusing on my future self. I think it's step 4 to.
Yes. To start being informed by your future self rather than your past self.
Yes, so I feel, I understand the wording. I just don't. I feel like I'm there and available, but it's like the nothingness. It's
All right. Well, I'll give you a little assistance with that. All right.
Okay.
So imagine a version of you in your mind's eye, in your imagination. See how a version of you in the future would be acting differently than you might be acting now in doing everything that you might do in your life. Watch the differences between how that version of you does things that are more in alignment with your passion, with who you truly prefer to be, rather than the way you might have done them in the past. Observe more carefully, no matter what it is that future version of you is doing, how that you is doing it differently than the way it might have been done in the past that's more representative of joy and alignment. And then start mirroring that behavior as closely as you can. You will then form a stronger bond, a resonance connection with the future self. And that means the future self can give you more information that can guide you forward rather than remembering the way things used to be done, which anchors you to the past self, which then gives you information about how things used to be done, rather than the way things can be done. So that's a technique you can use in your imagination to see the future self living her life in the way that would be representative of her joy in everything that she may do, whether it's simple things during the day or bigger things, doesn't matter. But the more you mirror the way she does them, the more you will connect to the future self and receive information from the future self that will pull you forward to become that version of you. Does that help?
It's the beginning of help.
Oh, all right.
When you say that, the reason it's not the complete vision is it's not that I need to right there when I do the discipline or actually what I'm referring to, probably I think I'm start getting it. So I'm referring to at the time when I do the discipline. I love doing it every morning. It's give me a nice boost into the
That's up to you.
Yes. So in that place, so I'm visioning her, me, or him. It might be him. I don't know.
No. I'm talking about the future self in this life.
That's not understood by me here.
Well, it's understood by you now because I just told you. In other words, years from now, will you be living more in the way that you really prefer to as opposed to the way you're choosing to do things now?
Truthfully, I hope so, but I don't.
Well, all right, let's stop there.
Yes.
You can know so. You don't have to hope so. You can make the choice. But the point is whatever it is, that version of you is doing years from now, you can start mimicking her now.
But is she or he? It's she.
Are you a she?
I got it. No, I am a she. Yeah, you're right. I corrected myself.
All right.
When I am the future me is going to deliver images to me.
Is going to deliver information to you and feelings to you and images and what have you to get you to start resonating more as the future you. To behave more as the future you. To give you the information that would be more representative of being the future self. So that you can more quickly become that version of you. But you can use your imagination to get yourself there faster by imagining the way she would be living her life that's different than what you're doing now, and then simply mimicking her in all the things that she's doing. That's the technique you can add to your meditation. Is that making any sense to you at all?
It does. It makes it
all right. So we're suggesting a way that you can accelerate the process.
Okay. I think I took it harder.
Yes, it's not that complicated. Don't overthink it.
Yeah. So with that, thank you. With that, I just like a footnote on the other spinning of the wheel exercise, the permissions you gave us. It's kind of the same feeling comes to me is when you give potential timelines. I focus on that. I pick up one and I focus on it, but it doesn't take me any further.
It's just a stretching exercise. It doesn't mean you have to find yourself fully in that reality. It's just a way of stretching your imagination to connect to other probabilities so that you can connect to the probabilities in your timeline that are relevant for you. It's just a stretching exercise. It doesn't mean you have to become a person in that reality.
Yeah, well, it's 15 minutes per scene. It's a long time when you
don't have to do them all on the same day.
No, not all. Even okay, I got you.
You can do them one a day. You don't have to. You can make up your own scenario of parallel reality too. Remember, we have always told all of you that when we give you a permission slip, you can allow your imagination to alter it in whatever way actually works better for you. You don't have to stick to exactly the way we have outlined it. We're just giving you a seed. You get to water it, and you get to allow it to grow in whatever way, shape, or form you desire.
Yeah, it's a process of freedom.
Yes, it is. And stretching your imagination to make sure that the way you're doing it is what works for you.
Yeah. I love this. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, please. Yes. I'm going to read it. A few months ago, I had to put down my dog. She had difficulties with her body.
All right. But of course, her spirit is still with you.
So that's where I'm going. I felt a great agonizing loss with her leaving, and
I understand the grief that you're talking about, but nevertheless, you haven't lost anything.
So, and probably we're talking to the body-mind consciousness here of me that I created a garden, I buried her in her garden, and yes. I could feel her. I talked to her. Yes. Sometimes I open the door and I feel like she's standing there, wants to come in.
And she may be. But the idea is that, of course, you will meet her again in spirit. But the idea is that you haven't lost her. She's still with you. You just have to allow yourself to be able to perceive it a little bit more strongly. That's all.
How do I do that?
Well, you stop grieving like you've lost something, because when you imagine that something is lost, you break a connection in energy. If you understand that she's still with you, just in a different form, you'll start feeling her more strongly.
Uh-huh. And does she know? I mean...
Yes, of course. In a sense, she's waiting for you to recognize that she's still there by stop pretending that she's not.
I feel like I'm pretending that she is when I don't see her.
But you're actually pretending that she's not.
Yeah, I got you. I understand that.
All right.
So is she not going to reincarnate into another?
Reincarnation is an idea and an experience you can create, but it doesn't actually exist in the way most people on your planet think it does. Everything exists at the same time. Everything. So how can one thing become another thing if both exist simultaneously?
Yeah, then
you can have that experience. You can create the experience as if you have become something else, but that's not what actually happens mechanically. So yes, the oversoul of the animal may extend itself into other beings that would feel like a reincarnation. And in that sense, yes, there may be many counterparts of that particular animal that if you encountered them would feel like your dog reborn. But that's just because they exhibit a similar energy because they're part of the same oversoul. It's not that the dog actually became another dog.
Okay.
Because the dog will always, for you, also be in spirit. Now, you may encounter another counterpart that will feel like your dog has reincarnated. That can happen. And therefore, a connection can be made physically, too, in that way. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you necessarily lose the connection with the spirit version of your dog either, because that has always existed, too. So it's up to you as to what to focus on. The physical representation, the spirit representation, or both. You can do both.
Well, how would I mean, I understand, but I'll still ask it because that's how I feel it. How would I change myself not to be so physical? Like I want to hug her. I want to feel her. I mean, I feel her in my being, but when I don't feel
because physical reality is a little denser than spirit, you may have to take a little bit more time to be able to relax in a meditative state, to really be able to feel the spirit dog, because it's a more refined version of energy. At the same time, like I said, sometimes in order for people to actually feel the physical sensation, you may attract another counterpart of the same oversoul that you can actually have a physical contact with. So again, you might do both.
I got you. I understand it.
All
Thank
right.
you. Last thing.
Yes.
I just really asked for a fatherly advice while entering an intense water fasting detox. Right now, I started it and I feel the discomfort of pain of the body and high emotional roller coaster. There are times that the state that I'm in is so unbearable.
Well, if you're truly detoxing, it might simply be the reaction of your body to the fact that you're dumping a lot of toxins into your system all at once. You don't necessarily have to do it that strongly. You can, shall we say, pull back a little bit. You can do it a little bit more simply, a little bit more softly, a little bit more slowly. It's up to you. You don't have to make yourself uncomfortable, but sometimes detoxing will dump a lot of toxins into your system. They will pass. They will get out of your system eventually, but you can slow down a little bit if that's more comfortable for you. All right?
Yeah.
All right.
I thank you so much. I love you so much.
Our unconditional love to you as well. We thank you for the co-creation and bid you good day.
Good day, Bashar.
Hello Bashar, my name is Keito. I'm from Japan. I have a question. When I do yoga or meditation, I can feel fulfilled and be myself, but it is difficult for me to stay in that. Thank you very much. Bye.
Well, again, please follow the formula as precisely as you can. That will help. At the same time, don't have the insistence or the expectation that the feeling you have from doing the yoga has to be exactly felt the same way when you're doing other things. You may be, in a sense, cutting yourself off by thinking that it's supposed to feel identical when you do something different than what you did before, and that's not the case, because if you are doing something different, the feeling is going to be different. The energy is going to be different in terms of how you experience it. But that doesn't mean it's not at the level it needs to be for what you're doing. So don't make false equivalencies by saying, well, I feel fulfilled when I'm doing the yoga, and I'm supposed to feel exactly the same way when I'm doing something else. No, you need to feel slightly differently when you're doing something else because there's an appropriate energy to everything you do. And therefore, get used to the idea that even though you may be operating on the perfect level you need to be operating on to do the other things, it's going to feel different. It's not going to feel like you're doing the yoga. The fulfillment will feel a little bit different for the thing you're doing.
Hi, Bashar. I love you. I have a silly common question. Let's say I have a job and I have a decent income, but there is this thing that is my passion, which I know if I follow it, that I will have less of an income. And I follow this passion, I will have much less income. And let's say my house goes on foreclosure and I'm responsible for my wife and children. And I tell them this is a blessing, foreclosure is good, we have to look at it positively. And then later we will be homeless and I will tell them, okay, this is positive, this is a good thing. But at what time do we start questioning?
This is a perfect example of an individual who knows just enough metaphysics to be dangerous to himself. You are starting from a false premise. And the false premise is the idea that you think you know that your income will lower if you are acting on your passion. The actual amount of financial abundance may fluctuate. But if you remember that there are many forms of abundance, such as trading for something, such as being given a gift, such as synchronicity, such as imagination, such as communication, all forms of exchange that can work together to allow you to continue to be able to act on your passion, which would by definition be inclusive of your family if they're part of your excitement, which I assume they are, and will take care of everything that needs to be taken care of that is relevant for you. So don't start from the false premise that your passion can't support you.
Hello, dear Bashar. This is Art from Kanyus, and my question is regarding timelines. The timeline that I am envisioning, that I'm truly invested in and putting my energy into, is one where all the civilizations come together here on Earth to function as one family under the stars, really, and where everybody is a little bit brought up to speed so that we also all function as telepaths in a sense that we are accessing the Akashic records to them, having all the answers, as you say, at the right moment, in the right time, the right answers, the right information. So yes, what is the preferred SSRNI timeline, the one that you're envisioning, that you most probably are putting your energy and time and effort into to realize with us here on Earth?
As we read the collective energy now, it's probably going to take you, for what you're describing, about 300 years of your time to start experiencing in the way that you've described it to some degree. However, different individuals may experience it sooner. Some may experience it later. We're only giving you an average overall bubble of the idea that you're describing as to the most likely, most probable time frame as we read the energy now that may allow such manifestations to be recognized more consciously on your planet as being normal or natural at that time, for such things to start happening more frequently among more people. But it will build. There's a process. You'll experience many different levels of it before you get there.
Iliova, my name is Pat from New Jersey. I have a question for you, and it's regarding Shakana, the 3 days that you spent moving through the eye of the needle. What were the procedures? Thank you and have a wonderful day.
There were no procedures. We were in what you might relate to as a telepathic lockdown. We all just went into a meditative zone. Nobody moved. There was nobody doing anything other than tapping into the Shakana experience at that moment for those 3 days. We emerged as different people. At that time, there were about 250 million of us on the planet.
Hi Bashar, it's Gabriela from Canada. Can you comment on the belief that an individual is perfect whether they're in alignment or not? And what is your definition of perfection?
What we mean when we say that is simply you are a perfect version of whatever you are at any given moment. It's not that you will be more perfect as you change, you will simply be differently perfect. We use that phrase to indicate that you're not attempting to measure yourself against some unattainable ideal of perfection. You are exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there, even if it's not what you really prefer. But even if it's not, you are still a perfect representation of someone who's experiencing something they don't prefer. So it's simply a way of validating every state of being, even the ones you don't prefer, which then paradoxically actually gives you the opportunity to change into different state of beings you might prefer, because by being perfect for whatever you are at any given moment, you're not invalidating yourself, which prevents you from moving forward and changing in the way you prefer. But that has nothing to do with the idea you humans call perfection. Because perfection to many of you means you never change again. But change is a constant. So you will always simply become differently perfect, because you're already perfect for whatever you are as the representation you are. It's a perfect representation of whatever you are. That doesn't mean you can't change and become more in alignment with what you prefer to be, but that's not the way most people on your planet think of when they think of perfection. Most people on your planet think of perfection as a static state. That will never happen. You are always going to be dynamically changing.
I have another question. So when we switch between parallel realities, we have a memory of the past. And is that memory of the past of the individual in each parallel reality, or there is a different past that the individual does not remember, or there's a fresh start and the past does not exist?
All of them. Remember, it's not this or that, it's this and that. Everything you've described happens simultaneously, and it just depends on which one you focus on that gives you the experience you're having.
I think defining past would be helpful, and for me, past seems to be more tangible as we have physical objects that are from the past, whereas the future seems like the idea of illusion because there is no tangible physical objects from the future.
First of all, you don't have physical objects from the past. You create them again in the present. Nothing comes from the past. You are creating a continuity illusion, creating an object in the present, and saying it comes from the past doesn't mean it actually does. That's just your way of expressing the idea of time and space. And in fact, you actually do have objects from the future. You're just not allowing them to be visible yet, until you believe they need to be visible in the present. So an object you're considering to be from the past is also an object from the future if you're creating the continuity that the object is still there in the next moment. That object came from the future.
Hello, Bashar. This is Lorena from Slovenia. I experienced in my life a lot of synchronicity, and it's my favorite form of abundance. And related to that, I quite often get insight, a feeling, a vision, what an outcome of certain synchronicity is going to be. But what triggers me is this time space between my vision and the result of a certain synchronicity. So I would like to know, how can I overcome this most easily? Because otherwise I experience a lot of impatience. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Again, remember, impatience comes from the belief that you need patience, and believing you need patience comes from the idea that you're supposed to be somewhere better than you are. Be in the moment. There is nothing more important than what's happening in the moment. Use it fully, and you won't need to be patient waiting for something else to happen And if you're not waiting for something else to happen, then you won't be impatient. It's that simple. You're creating an insistence. You're creating an expectation that there's something more important you should be focused on other than what's happening in your life at any given moment. And there isn't anything more important than what's happening in the moment. When you know that, you won't need